You are a hair clipper manufacturer, you should pay close attention to your blades. At the end of the day, blades decide if your clipper is good or bad. Most users don't care if you use a brush motor or a brushless one, how much is the RPM, or how much is the runtime. They can deal with all of that as long as you got a good blades. Choosing a good blades heavily depends on your pin drive design. For example, if you got the Babyliss or JRL, you should use one type of blades, but if you got the pin drive design like Valve's pin drive design, you should use the other types of blades. And about the pin drive design, on Valve, you got a key blade all part, which makes the dynamic blade move in a straight line. You got a spring, which controls the pressure between these two blades, and you got the pin drive, which the dynamic blade gets attached to it. But on Babyliss, you only got a spring, which the pin drive gets attached to it, and the dynamic blade gets attached to that pin drive, and the health and the pressure of that spring choose how good is your cutting performance. So this difference makes your dynamic blade pin drive design dependent. So let's talk about different small blades and let's see which blade is good for what scenario. I'll start with Gamma's blade. This blade is thin, lightweight, and has a very small contact point with a static blade. This blade is good when you want to play safe. This is good when you have a low RPM, when you have a low quality motor, and you should never use it on a high RPM motor like Gamma Boosted or Rebel. Gamma just use this blade on those high RPM clippers, and this is just wrong because this blade makes those clippers just too noisy, and it's not a good choice for those clippers. For those clippers, for a high RPM clipper, you should use a much heavier blade like this, or even not as heavy as Valve's dynamic blade, but you can use just lighter options, but definitely not as lightweight as this one. So this blade is for when you want to play safe, and this is not good for a pin drive design like Gamma Boosted, Gamma Rebel, or even Valve, because these blades just makes it just too noisy. So where you should use it? You should use it on a pin drive design like Babyliss. I have an AC clipper which got the exact same blade, as you can see, only the color is different. And with this vapor blade, as you can see, there's no coating on back. It's just very good on carpet. This clipper has the exact same pin drive design that the Babyliss has, and this blade is good for this type of pin drive design. And it has a high RPM, but even on Gamma on 1800 RPM, you can't get such cutting performance. It's good only for this type of pin drive design. As you can hear, it's just too silent. It just very silent in compared to a clipper like Kibe Percelta or Gamma Rebel. It's just too silent. And this blade is just perfect for this type of pin drive design. A pin drive design that all the things get attached to the spring. But the cool thing here is, now here I got two exact dynamic blade, but you should expect just like this, it kill the carpet. But as you can see, it just struggle. You see why this happens? Well, look at this one. See? Again, on this one. You just get stopped. See? So this is because of the static blade. Let's talk about that. So I wish I put that there. My desk is messy enough. So here you go. You got a static blade which has no cutting on here, but a coated one here. The clipper that didn't cut has coating on this side, but the vapor blade that I used has no cutting on here. When it has no cutting, it has sharper edges. It has sharper edges. It's just like I used this blade. This is good. I ordered these two blades from China, and now you can guess which one cuts better with that with this blade. Now you should know this one cuts better. Why? Because it has no coating, that it has sharper edges. When it gets coated, it's not as sharp as this. This is because it struggles to cut with a coated blade or something like this. Let me bring these two again. So you may say, now you can see it has its own original blade. It's coated with DLC. It can go through the carpet, but this one can't. Let me be gentle with that too. Let's test that again too. You see, it suddenly stops. So you may say, okay, I understand that if you got this blade and the back of your big blade has no coating, it's good to go. But it's not. You have some exceptions. It's a Babyliss Boost Plus. It's coated on here. The small blade is different, but just look at it. Just like butter. Look at that. Here you go. So why this happens? We just said, you see, we just said if it has coated, it's not sharp enough. This happens because of two things. The pressure that the Boost Plus applies to the static blade, the pressure that spring applies using the dynamic blade to this static blade, is just too much. It's very hard to put the spring of the Boost Plus in its place because it just applies too much pressure to its static blade. The second reason is the small blade, the dynamic blade of the Boost Plus, is much heavier. So what do you understand? You understand that if you want to get coating on back of your blade, you should have a heavier blade with a stronger spring. So why you even want a coating here? When you get a coating here, the dynamic blade or the small blade moves smoother. There's a little less pressure on your motor. This is why you want a DLC coating on back of your blade. So on Babyliss, it just cuts like butter because the dynamic blade is just much heavier and the spring applies a lot of pressure. So you can't get a good cutting performance on this one. Why? Because when you have a DLC coating on back of your blade and lightweight blade on top as dynamic blade, it can't cut. The dynamic blade should be heavier if you want to cut it. So it's not it's not a weak motor, it's 10,000 RPM, you know? But even with 6,800 RPM, you can get something like this. But if I now change the blade of this with a wall blade, it just kills it, nothing can stop it. But I'm afraid to do it because I don't know how much the AC motor of this clipper can handle. You know, you shouldn't mess with them. So, but you can go a little bit more heavier with that. I think you should get the small blade of wall is just too heavy. You have better option like this. It's about 5 gram, you know, 5 to 6 gram, and it's just perfect. But the only problem with this type of blades, for example, this, and this, is they all have these bases. They are not continuous like this. So after a very short time, I don't know, after 6 months, they just dig into your static blade and just damage it, and it's just a very bad thing. They just wanted to play safe with these blades, and they just reduce the friction and to get more pressure on the blade without touching the spring. So these are good options for if you want to play safe, but it just damages your static blade. So it's about this one. So about this small blade of Gamma, for the use case that Gamma use it, it's not a good use case, you know. You can use on a pin drive design like Wall, it's just dead wrong. Okay, so on it's full charge. On Wall boosted, I just use the heaviest. The Wall has the heaviest motors, just the heaviest dynamic blades, and it just, when it get boosted, nothing can stop it. I mean, ta-ta, what the hell? There you go. What can stop this? It just it's just crazy, you know. The RPM is high, 7,200 RPM, and heaviest blade you can use. And when it goes into bulking, it just, what is this? I mean, no pressure, it just kills it. You see, you know. So you should use a we use heavy dynamic blades when you really trust your motor. Okay, I use a very high quality brushless motor on them, and I know what I'm doing with this super torque shafts, my custom shaft. It just kills it on performance. So you go heavier on dynamic blades when you have trust in your motor. If you're shaky about the quality of your motors, you choose lightweight options. When you have more trust in your motors, you go for heavier option. And about the static blades, it just, there's no more tricks. If you got coated blades, you should use heavier blades to get the maximum cutting performance. I mean, when I'm doing these comparisons, I mean, when you have Gamma boosted, it just kills it on cutting performance. Okay, it's good for you when you don't have one of these. Okay, so it's good on hair, but I'm talking about the maximum cutting performance, the carpet test. Okay, the Gamma even on 10,000 RPM can cut the carpet. Okay, but this is just wilder. It just threw away the hair when you are cutting with it. Okay, so here when I say the lightweight is not good, I'm talking about the maximum cutting performance, and this is the maximum cutting performance. Okay, it just, as you can see, it just moves away the carpet. It just, let me clean it first. You see, it just throw it away. Okay, so for a coated blade, you should use a heavy blade. Okay, for a heavy blade to get the maximum cutting performance. If you have if you have no cutting no DLC covering here, you can use every type of blades you want. If even these lightweight blades, you can use like this here, and you still get a very good cutting performance. I mean, even what you want. It gets stuck a little bit, but it's just good. Okay, it's better than this coated blade on back. It's better than this. Okay, so this is about the blades. This is how you know your blades. If you see your clipper has a high RPM, or very has a high RPM, has the same pin drive design as Vol, a lightweight blade is not good. If it has about, for example, Babyliss knows his motor is a monster, so he just use a heavy blade on his products. So the better your motor is, you can use a heavier blade to get a better cutting performance. On a static blade, when it has coating, go for a heavier blade for better cutting performance. So another thing you should pay attention to is the teeth. For example, the teeth on this Vol's blade is much higher in compared to this Chinese blade. So on a good motor, it just kills it, but on this one, it just looks like a normal one. Okay, here we go. So I think we're done. Nowadays, I don't know. So for example, if someone tells me give me a Pure Boosted, I know Pure Boosted have this type of blade, so I changed it, and usually I give them this pitage blade, which I know my motor has a very high RPM, so I give them this. This is heavy too. I think when I weighted, it was about 7 grams. So because it's pitage, there's room for error on that high RPM. So I give them this. I don't give them this one, because I know after a couple of months, the one who ordered that boosted Preselta will come here and tell me, okay, my clipper got noisy. I know what this comes from. So here you go. And then last thing, I don't know what else I should talk about. If you have a pin drive design like Babyliss, and you got this type of pin drive, which gets placed on no key blade oil parts, you shouldn't use a heavy blade, because it just damages and start to corroding all over here. Okay, so you may say the Babyliss is using a heavy blade and there's no corrosion on its pin drive. You're right. So how Babyliss handled that? I love Babyliss because you get that feeling that they're really engineering this thing, and they're just cool. So if you got a pin drive design like Babyliss or JRL, you should make sure you got these 2 extra pins to get no corrosion on these 3 parts of your pin drive. As you can see, you never see a Babyliss that got corroded here. It just fit in place, and even though it's heavy, there's no corrosion on here or back of it. Okay, sometimes there's corrosion here, but never corrosion on here. So on a pin drive design like JRL or pin drive design on Babyliss, if you wanna go for a heavier blades, you should make sure your dynamic blade gets placed perfectly on top of your pin drive. On JRL, the pin drive is just a little bit weaker, so they didn't use a blade as heavy as this. They went for this ceramic option, which is much lighter, but it still is heavy enough and gives you a very good cutting performance, even though it's just a cheap rotary. I don't know, it's just too expensive. Okay, too expensive, but the things inside just very cheap. But it's all about blades. Barbers loved it all because of the blades. Okay, the things inside, the material is just trash, but you like it because of this blade. So there are 3 JRL here. This came for the problem of motor. The motor got damaged. This doesn't work because of the circuit got damaged. So they get damaged soon. They get damaged easily because they are just trash material. It's just very cheap motor in it. But the blade is winning the game for JRL. That's why the people love JRL, just because of the blade. Users, as I said that in the start of the video, users don't care about what you did inside. They care about the blade. This blade should feel good. Okay, here we go. So on vault spin drive, you can go wild. You can be a little bit careless about the weight of your weight of the motor. If you got a good, sorry, GoPro got overheated again. As I said, if you got a pin drive design like Vol and you got a good RPM, you can be careless on the weight of your dynamic blade. But on a pin drive design like Babyliss and JRL, you should be too careful with your pin drive design. Your pin drive should be as perfect as this 6800 RPM on Babyliss's brushless motor, which is insanely high, and the pin drive can handle it like there's no problem, and it is good. But JRL played a little bit safer, use a weaker pin drive, use a more lightweight ceramic blade, and yeah, so these are the things you should pay attention to. And yeah, if high RPM, no, you shouldn't use lightweight dynamic blades. If you got coating, you should go for a heavier dynamic blade. If you got no covering on back, you can use any type of dynamic blade based on your motor. If you got a design like these two, you should be careful with your pin drive design. So yeah, this one a good example, these 3. If you got a coating on back, you should go for a heavier blade. So it's just very simple rules. But if you go boosted, nothing can stop this beast. I can't stop showing off my wall boosted. Okay. If boss see this video and how much I waste my carpets, it will just kill me. So yeah. So this is for this video. Please ask your questions in the comments. Tell me what you think. If you liked it. If you didn't like it, please tell me in a comment why you didn't like it. So tell me. I have I don't have any idea for the videos. If you got any idea, please tell me what we should do in the next video. Thanks for watching. Bye bye.